Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So I decided to do a new story time video because I didn't feel like streaming today. So I wanted to actually tell you a story from when I was really young or at least maybe a few stories about when I had lived on a farm. I lived on a farm when I was really young. Now this farm wasn't crazy big. We mainly just had a lot of cows, two bulls and a bunch of cows. Well, with that in mind, I ended up actually. I wasn't close with many of the animals. We had a donkey, we had a goat, we had cows, and we had, of course, two bulls. Now, the two bulls were named Benny and Goldberg. Benny and Goldberg were, again, the two bulls. I named Benny because, well, I was like 4 or 5. I was into Dora at the time, Benny the Bull type deal. And the other one was named Goldberg because I was really into wrestling, and I think that was the name of one of the wrestlers. So, with that in mind, I decided to just, I thought they were cool. And they were really cute. Like, they didn't have horns because they were dehorned. They were, I think they were Angus beef cattle. They were like these little brown and black cows. They weren't like dairy cows, which have like white with black splotches. So the bulls would like usually lean their head out of the fence. I would give them little head scratches. They'd lick me. It was really cute. The cows are actually quite funny. In fact, the funniest thing is that they actually get jealous to some degree. So they'll get jealous, believe it or not. And the funniest part about that is they find it they get so jealous. It's quite funny. So one day my stepdad is like, he's about 6'4". He's scratching the head of one of the cows. One of the cows did not got like jealous and didn't like that and actually headbutted him, which cows are very strong animals. So despite their size, they are very strong, very powerful. Never let a cow kick you or step on you. They will hurt you. Okay, so I didn't have any issues with cows. They were really cute. I would just wander around and play with the cows, supervised. They were cute. Now, I proceeded. I one day adventured around and I noticed the gate near the barn was closed, and I found that kind of weird. There was this big red barn with a lot of old stuff in it, jars, bottles, like a rusty old truck I like to sit in and just look around. It was an old horse stable inside, so I like to play around in there and check it out, but we didn't have horses. So with this in mind, I proceed to just kind of wander. So I shrugged this off, and being as little and skinny as I was back then, I just kind of crawled under the fence. I'm wearing like a little pink dress. I'm just kind of wandering around like I usually do. Well, lo and behold, I just look over out of the corner of my eye, and what do I see? Benny. Benny is trotting towards me. Not a full sprint or run, but he is trotting towards me lightly. And I become very nervous and unsettled by this because, well, I'm not supposed to be alone in a cow pasture or alone with the cows because cows can actually hurt you to some degree. Now, I don't know what was up with Benny. He was acting very territorial, obviously, because he's a male. And, well, Benny did not like me being in there. And he actually began lightly. I start to kind of walk away from him in panic. I'm like trying to trot at a decent speed where it's like, okay, maybe if I just kind of walk away from him, he'll stop following. This doesn't work. Benny actually starts lightly headbutting me in the back. Not enough to make me fall or hurt me, but enough to just kind of emphasize to get out. Well, after a moment of this, I begin to panic because I know I'm not supposed to be alone in the cow pasture, and Benny is acting strangely, so I proceed to run behind a giant fertilizer tank. The fertilizer tank, if you've never seen a fertilizer tank, all right, fertilizer tanks are very wide, long, and round, like a giant cylinder. Okay, so they're usually attached to certain pieces of farm machinery, and you fill them with fertilizer or in some cases pesticides and spray large fields of corn or any other crop you're growing. Like you get in a large tractor-like vehicle and do this. The tank by itself, when it's empty, is actually quite heavy. It's made of a thick, heavy plastic, and it's typically very heavy. So I get between it and a fence, because I'm very small at the time and can squeeze in between there. With this in mind, I proceed to just kind of scoop myself in there, and I think that's the end of it, because Benny, being as wide and large of a bull as he is, pokes his head kind of between the fence and the fertilizer tank, but he can't get any further because his shoulders are broad and wide, and he can't get behind the tank. So he just kind of looks at me with this well, kind of irritated look, like, dang it, I can't get to you. So I just kind of breathe a sigh of relief, thinking, okay, I just gotta wait until I can escape. And then the next thing I know, the tank is rolling slightly forward between the fence and me. Like, it's not tipping to the point where I'm gonna get squished entirely, but it's getting dang close, and I'm thinking, uh-oh. So Benny is not happy. He is just headbutting this tank and pushing it, trying to get me to either squish me or get me out of there. And so I proceed to eventually just I actually grabbed something from behind the tank. I grabbed a few things behind the tank and I threw something. I don't remember what I threw, but I threw it at a far distance out from behind the tank, which gave me enough time. Benny proceeds to trot towards whatever the hell I threw. I think I threw like several wildflowers or something, and he just kind of walks towards it and looks at it. And while I do that, I immediately run, and I proceed to climb back under the fence like I did before, or in this case, the large metal gate. And I get up, and Benny is just kind of giving me this look like, yeah, you better stay out of my pen. And, yeah. So that happened, and I didn't tell a soul for years, because I knew my mom would freak out, and I knew I would be in big trouble, and it was very freaking unsettling. But other than that, I didn't really have any issues with cows, or bulls in this case, because they were usually friendly. But yeah, so during certain types of year, you have to keep the bulls separated from the herd of cows, because it can get very ugly at times, from what my understanding of that is. So that was an interesting little story. So we did have an electric fence too, and I had two instances I remember that were kind of creepy. Well, one was just painful, the other one was kind of creepy. So, my stepfather and my mother emphasized, do not touch the electric fence. If you don't know what an electric fence is, it's an electrically charged fence, and trust me, you don't want to touch it. So, being little at the time, I remember one time I'm playing with my cousins Taylor and Shelby. Now, we're like 5, maybe younger, and I don't remember what was wrong or what I was mad about, but we start shoving each other, right? I don't know why. Well, Taylor, being bigger than me at the time and taller than me, gives me a shove, because she's like about 6 or 7 months older than me. I proceed to fall back, and of course, when you fall over, you're trying to catch yourself, right? Well, I end up grabbing the first thing next to me. What does that happen to be? The electric fence. And let me be abundantly clear, I screamed bloody murder. I cried. I bawled hysterically, like I screamed. It was painful. It was one of the most painful shocks I've ever received in my life. Like, I cried hysterically. My hand hurt, obviously, from touching the electric fence, because I had gripped it really tightly when I fell. And, yeah, and then when I pull away, luckily, I actually slid down, because where the fence posts are, it's near a little ditch. I, like, slid down, and I'm, like, straightening my knees, trying to make sure I don't touch the fence again. So, yeah, that was not a fun incident. And the second time, I was walking too close to the little ditch near the fence. I actually slid down. The good news was I narrowly avoided touching the fence. Like, I stopped in time before I touched the fence with my legs. Well, the creepy thing is, I push my hand to kind of get up, and I feel something weird under my hand, and I look down, and it's a skull. Not a human skull. It looked like a raccoon skull. Like, we looked it up later. It was a weird little raccoon skull. It was so creepy and weird, and I don't know where it came from. Don't know why it was there, how it got there. Just weird. So, yeah, those were some weird stories about when I lived on the farm. There was one other story I want to tell. Now, I've told this one on stream, and it was actually at my grandma's. So, my grandma's used to, my mama used to raise like quails and like other weird animals, like she raised turkeys, quails, and other things. Not chickens though. She did eventually start raising chickens though. Okay, so now let me be clear. Turkeys are kind of scary to me. I'm not afraid of them per se, but they are just weird birds. I am not a fan of them. And here's why. And this is going to seem silly. So, turkeys are rather tall to some degree. When you're like 4 or 5, they're pretty tall and menacing. So one day my mama's like, hey, I gotta feed the turkeys. Do you want to help me? And I'm like, being a little kid and just loving animals. I'm like, yeah, mama's gonna let me feed the turkeys. This is gonna be a great experience. So she hands me this empty coffee can, like this old coffee can that's just full of corn, right? Turkeys love the stuff. So I proceed. She's like, she opens the pen, lets me go in, and of course, turkeys being the way they are, they just look up suddenly and they're just, all you hear is gobble, 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 the weird noises they make. I'm like, oh no! Ah! And suddenly, next thing I know, I'm just surrounded by turkeys that are craning their necks and moving their heads and looking at me and just doing that. And I'm panicking because I am now surrounded by birds that are about as tall as me, mind you. And I just start panicking, ready to cry, and I go, Mama! Oh my gosh, help me! Because again, there's turkeys everywhere. And they're just coming at me in a circle, and they're probably a little taller than me at the time. So I proceed to just panic, and my mom was just like, Ariel, throw the corn, throw the corn. And I'm like, oh, right. I'm like throwing corn at them, just dumping the corn around. And they eventually just back off and go for the corn. But then I just like remember running to my mama, crying and freaking out because I was so scared of the dang turkeys. They were just so freaking scary to me at the time. But yeah, I was never a fan of turkeys. Never have been. PETA lied. Let me be abundantly clear. PETA is dead wrong. Turkeys are not smart. They are not very intelligent creatures. They have some intelligence, but they're honestly, on ranking of intelligence of farm animals I have interacted with, they're not on the brightest. Like chickens have some more intelligence than them, and they're freaking weird. But no, I just always thought that was interesting, and just yeah. So it was weird, and I actually had a teacher once named Mr. Lepore. He actually explained how much he was always surprised about cows because I did eventually tell him the story about the cow like earlier, the bull. And he goes, I'm surprised you aren't traumatized about cows. And I'm like, honestly, cows don't freak me out that much. Cows are just, they're weird, but they're kind of funny and adorable. So yeah, those were just a few of the stories I had living on the farm. If you guys want to hear any more stories about that, feel free to like, subscribe, and comment down below. Anyway, I'm sorry I didn't stream tonight. I was really tired. If you guys want to see another stream in the future, feel free to let me know. But yeah, I hope you all have a great day. Stay safe, stay hydrated, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye!